Hello and welcome again. We're going to continue coloring this illustration. So let's hide this color palette here, and I want to show you that this illustration also has a background that we need to take care of. So as you can see, the colors for this background are on a grayscale, which means they don't have any saturation, they are just value. But you get the idea for the setting of this illustration. This character is in a jungle or something similar. So of course the colors of our background will need to go with the colors of our character. By the way, we are going to group our character together now, so we are going to click on this little circle here on the layers panel and then go to Object, Group. This way we'll be able to handle our shapes in a more efficient way. And of course now we are going to do the same thing for the background. We're going to click on this and we're going to Object, Group and group it together. So at this moment we need to pause and think which colors will go along well with the colors that we already have for the character. I think that we'll need colors that are very dark, and something like a very dark red or a very dark brown will work. Since our character is already a very bright green color, we need something that's a contrast, something that's the opposite from that. So I'm going to take this big shape here and I'm going to assign this neutral color that we created before, and I'm going to experiment a bit from there and let's see what happens. I mentioned it before, but I want to say it again because it's very important. Creating your own color palette has a lot to do with going back and forth and experimenting, so take your time with this step. Okay, so we have a set of brown colors. These aren't necessarily going to be on the final illustration, but I think something similar to this will definitely be the answer. So I'm about to show you a very powerful tool on Adobe Illustrator, which is called Recolor Artwork. So let's click on this little wheel that we have here to access that menu, and I'll show you how it works. So after we do that, this window will appear and we have lots of options, but we're going to go to this little button called Edit. And now that we are here, let's do something that's very important, which is to click on this little link icon, which is Link Harmony Colors. Now our colors will be tied together. So all of the changes that we'll do from now will affect all of the colors. So let's start playing. As you can see, you will find the same sliders that I taught you how to use on a previous video right here. And as you can see, I'm shuffling through the hue, saturation, brightness sliders, especially the hue, and I'm shifting the hue towards somewhere around blue or maybe purple. So let's see how this works. I think I like this purple scheme. I think it goes well with the green of the character. We'll settle for this color scheme now, but we may edit it later because there still are some tools that I want to show you, so we may go back and revisit those colors later. But for now, the important part is that you get how the Recolor Artwork window works. So now that I'm done, I'm going to click OK. So have in mind that those colors have been modified by a computer, by an algorithm, so if you find that there is something that you will change, feel free to do so. Right now I am fine-tuning some of the colors from this. Okay, so that was one tool used for modifying colors on Adobe Illustrator, but I'm going to show you the next one. And for that I'm going to modify the colors on this character. So I am going to select it. And since there are so many lines, so many yellow lines and anchor points covering the character, I'm going to hide that by going to View and Hide Edges. Okay, so right now, as you can see, the character is selected, but we are not seeing the edges. So next, I will click on Edit, Edit Colors, and Adjust Color Balance. So this is another approach, another very powerful tool on Adobe Illustrator that will allow you to change the amount of colors on your color palette. So of course we're going to hit Preview to start. So of course what you can do here is to play around and shuffle with the sliders a bit. what I'm doing right now and what I think it may be interesting is to remove a bit of the green tint on this character so it's more integrated with the dark tones of the background. Okay, so another thing that I'm doing right now for the character is to add just a tiny dash of blue. So it looks like he's being illuminated by moonlight, and since the background is very dark, this looks like a night scene, and I think this makes sense and looks fairly good. So this will be all for now, so I'm going to click OK and exit this edit color window. And now I'm going to keep editing the colors of the background, so I'm going to select it and go to Edit, Edit Colors, Adjust Color Balance. So basically I'm overdoing this a bit just to show you what we can do with Adobe Illustrator. I think I will add some blue tones to the background here as well, so it looks like a night scene as I mentioned before. So let's try that. So in your case, feel free to do this too. Feel free to go back and edit the colors as many times as you want. For example, I think that by adding some blue tones, this illustration has improved and it's more moody. Okay, so at this moment, I think I'm happy with the result, and I'm going to click OK and exit this window. Okay, so if you wanted to keep editing the colors of this illustration even further, what you could do is to select everything on your illustration, in this case the character and the background, and then go to Edit Colors, Adjust Color Balance, and that will affect your entire illustration. This will give your illustration an overall tint, an overall change that will tie everything together. So of course at this point I'm overdoing it a bit. I would normally edit my colors just once or twice, but I want to show you what you can do with Adobe Illustrator and how far you can take this. So as I showed you, we have the Recolor Artwork tool, we have the Edit Colors window, and we also have another trick that's not a proper tool, but just one trick that you can use to modify your colors, which implies creating a new layer. And we are going to draw a big rectangle that goes across the entire artwork. And of course, since this is covering my entire artwork, I'm going to bring my transparency window by going to Window, Transparency, and here I'm going to select as a blending mode, Overlay. And now I'm going to decrease the number for the transparency of this layer. So basically, you can play around with the blending modes on this layer and your colors will change accordingly. Everything that's behind this layer will change according to the color overlay that you're introducing here on this new layer. So always check which color you're using around here. Since this is a transparency layer, it's difficult to see, but we have yellow, for example, at this moment. So this is yet another approach, yet another tool, similar to Recolor Artwork or Edit Colors, which can help you tie all your colors together. So if you give it, for example, yellow tint on this overlay layer, all of your colors will have a yellow overlay. So there are a lot of blending modes to use and try, so feel free to play around with those. My personal recommendation is to use overlay and keep the transparency at a low number like 20%, but that will depend on your style, so feel free to play around with this. So right now on the video you can see that I'm trying different things with this overlay layer. I'm trying warmer colors, I'm trying colder colors. I just want to see what works and what doesn't. Another thing that you need to have in mind is that either using Recolor Artwork or Edit Colors or this new layer will produce the same result more or less. So you can use one or the other. In this case I use all of them just to show you how it's done. So for example, on this case I've used the Edit Colors window and I added some blue tones to the entire illustration, and now with this overlay layer I'm adding some red tones, which end up giving this purple feel to the entire illustration, which I think it's nice and it's quite fitting for the night scene that I was mentioning before, but feel free to use just one of these tools because I could easily have achieved this same look by just using the edit colors or just using this new layer. Okay, so one last thing that I should mention before I leave. This technique of applying an overlay layer on top of everything is the less recommended one because either with Recolor Artwork or Edit Colors, you're actually modifying the colors on your illustration. And on this case, you're just adding a new shape that's on low transparency and with a blending mode applied, which is altering how you're seeing those colors, but you're not actually changing them. For example, if you wanted to pick up some of these colors with your eyedropper tool, you will only be selecting the top layer. You won't be selecting these colors. Okay, I think this is it. We've learned how to create color palettes, how to work with pre-existing color palettes, and how to edit and modify your colors on Adobe Illustrator. So I hope you learned something new about color on this course. Thank you for watching and see you next time. Bye.